Hello friends, my name is Bernard. Welcome to my channel. This video is part 3 of the Kreutzer Etude number 3 series, and you just heard me play quite a bit slower tempo and staccato with the bow on the string, doing the original bowings. There's not too much to add to my other 2 parts, which hopefully you've seen. The difficulty here is to really make every note sound, and I have a little extra difficulty because I have a new set of strings on. I put a set of obbligato strings on just a couple of days ago, and they're a little stiff, and you can sometimes hear it as I'm trying to draw the bow, and I'm not getting a pure tone all the way through the stroke. So that's just interesting for you to note that lots of us have that problem when we put new strings on. I don't know how long these will take to break down, but they're very good strings, and I expect it might take as much as a month just to break down enough so that the tone becomes normalized. My experience with Parastro strings are they last a long time, up to a year. But if you got a string that's going to last a year, the break-in is pretty significant. I remember my teacher way back used to have 2 violins, and he would put his new strings on his second violin and let them sit on the violin, stretching for 2 weeks. Then he'd take them off and put them on his primary violin. So that's another approach to not having to deal with what I'm dealing with here, with the violin being a little bit extra stiff to the stroke. Now, in this stroke that I'm using, the staccato on the string, short stroke, what it does, it seems to emphasize the difficulty of the shifts because we have more time, especially at starting at measure 10, 11, 12, all that. It's a little bit slower, and so you have more time to think, and sometimes that's not good. So I would say that, practice it very slowly. Obviously, a staccato is going to be a slower stroke than spiccato if I'm playing at number 10. So I would say start at that tempo. If I started, you'll notice, by the way, that when I perform this for you, I really made emphasis every time I keep it. Part of that is trying to make the strings work because they're a little stiff, but also from a musical standpoint, it's a nice idea. And then when we get down to measure 9, it makes the music quite interesting when you do these different phrases. Like we're really emphasizing the different slurring patterns where, at the beginning we have the second 2/16 slurred, and then when we get down into bar 8 and 9, 7 and 8, we have the slurs. That, and then bar 9. So it's very interesting. We can have a lot of fun as a violinist, an aficionado of violin playing. That these different sounds that we can make. As far as all the rest of the bowings, I would do the ones that are most comfortable. Like in looking at Etude number 2, we have the first option would be straight, no slurs, just staccato or spiccato. That's wonderful. Very simple. It's still difficult, but very, very simple. Don't have to think too much about slurs and that, but that's wonderful. Number two is already pretty similar, where they have one stroke down and then two slurs, and that happens all the way through the piece. It's very similar to what we have in the original. Oh, sorry, let me apply it. Sorry. But yeah, that's the same as the original for the first two measures. You can go ahead and play the whole piece like that. I find it for myself, when I already have slurs marked in, different slurs, it's very hard to remember if I'm trying to apply another slurring pattern. So I think maybe that's the reason why the original is like this, with a variation of bowings all the way through. Certainly, number 3 would be a very, very good bowing if you want to practice that. But it's easier than what's in the music, because in the music it doesn't come on the downbeat. So some bowings are going to be easier than what's in the original, and some will be more difficult. So you can go through all of these, and and enjoy all the different strokes that you can do. It reminds me of a story as I'm sitting here thinking. A story I was told to me. I don't know if this is a true story, but Ruggiero Ricci, who was a great, maybe the primary Paganini player when I was young, and of course there are now many fabulous Paganini players, possibly beyond Mr. Ricci, but Mr. Ricci was a great player. And the story went that one day he was laid up in the hospital. I mean, this story, they really laid it on thick. He was laid up in the hospital, and he was bored to death. So he reached for his violin, and he had some sort of, I don't know, some broken bone somewhere. That's the story, but I was young and I believed all of it. And he said, and he was laid up in the hospital. So he took his violin, and he was practicing the Scherzo Tarantella by Vinyowski. And if you don't know that piece, go to YouTube and listen to, I think I recorded it, but go to listen to somebody play that piece. And he said he was so bored. Oh, he knew that piece because he had a photographic memory. I mean, the man was phenomenal. He knew every concerto, and phenomenal. And so he decided, since he was bored, he'd learn the Scherzo Tarantella backwards. That had to be a story told to me by one of my teachers. Maybe Rolf Persinger was a great storyteller, and yet he knew Ricci quite well. And his father worked with Ricci. Louis Persinger actually accompanied Ricci on many of his Paganini recordings. But yeah, I talked to Ricci once, and when he came to play with the orchestra, the symphony, and he said, "Well, I'm going to be playing a town hall recital coming up. I don't know what I'm going to play. It's coming in a couple of weeks. I think maybe I'll play the Bartók unaccompanied." And I went, "Maybe you'll play the Bartók unaccompanied." So Ricci was a special kind of player, and he played a wonderful Guarneri del Gesù, like many of the great players playing either Strads or Guarneris. There's a reason for that, I think, besides just playing a named instrument. So anyway, enough of stories out of me. I hope all these videos on the Kreutzer Etudes that I've done, this is the third part of this number 3, and it's a wonderful etude, very difficult. The more you practice it, the better you'll get. So thanks very much for listening, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. And if you think somebody else might benefit from listening to my stories, please share the video. All right, take care. We'll see you on the next one.